Can't have anything nice with this guy. It is
Morning.
the Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends over there at Banko Beverage Company. Sam Malone, good morning to you,
Good
pal.
morning, Crockett Man. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I was fine until before we get into this Eagles conversation. You and I have to have a conversation about soups because we were talking about the Super Bowl for obvious reasons.
Correct.
This game could have big implications on who has home field advantage in the playoffs.
Yep.
If these two teams were to meet in the playoffs, where that might be. And we talked about the Super Bowl, and you said the best soup out there is what?
Split pea with ham. Oh, is it so good?
What a horrendous decision.
Dude, that's a dinner. That's like you can have that. A bowl of that with a couple saltine crackers or Ritz crackers, whatever you prefer. You have that. That's your dinner. You're set. That is good.
My wife loves it, and if she's ever like, oh, we're just throwing dinner together tonight, like grilled cheese sandwiches, whatever, I'll be like, all right, well, do you want a soup? And she says split pea. I'm like, I can't stand opening the can.
Oh my gosh,
it is
so
awful.
Good.
There's so many other good soups out there. And
name one that tops that.
Chicken noodle.
That's only when you're sick.
French onion.
French onion is good.
Cream of potato. Cream of anything.
Now they're good soups, but they don't top split pea with ham. I'll give you that.
You're not giving me that.
I'll give you that. They're good soups, is what I'll tell you.
Okay,
I'll give you that, but not,
Okay. Anyway, let's hope your Eagles analysis is a little bit better. So, look, let's go back to last week against Buffalo a little bit. I think if we were to blindly put the statistics on a table and you looked at them, you would say that Team A that led in yards and time of possession and all of those key factors, you would say, wow, they really must have blown the doors off this other team. But look at the final score. Eagles 37, Bills 34 in overtime. What just was kind of your assessment of that game against Buffalo last week?
Imagine if they would have played 4 quarters of that game is my first thought.
Yeah.
It's I don't know how much longer. And people say, how much longer can they get away with it? But I guess my assessment is I don't know what the issue is first half. I can't figure out why they're not playing first half, but they were good enough to keep it close to halftime. So in the third and fourth quarter, they put up a ton of points. I think they put up 30 points in the second half. Trying to figure out the math of the score. But they looked really good at times. Obviously they did not. And they had a couple nice runs with Swift again, and then it wasn't there for whatever reason. The passing game wasn't there until the second half, and Jalen Hurts did not look. Do you remember the first series when they
three passes and right off the field? Yeah,
that's not how the Eagles are going to win, just by doing that, and I think they figured that out.
Which was interesting to me, just because of the news of Lane Johnson being out.
Yeah,
that I would have thought, okay, Jack Driscoll, let him kind of get himself settled, maybe try to get yourself in a third and manageable to start.
Yep.
Which obviously not that they were trying to throw 3 incomplete passes in a row, but
Correct.
That's how it went in the game. Yeah, it was. We kind of have talked about it all year long. How, and most Eagles fans feel this way. It hasn't been. You haven't seen that big game. I'll give this to the 49ers. The 49ers went through that stretch where they beat, particularly in that Cowboys game, where they won 3 or 4 games where they just rolled people on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
That was the most complete team I've seen in any extended stretch of the season, was the San Francisco 49ers at the time. Trent Williams gets hurt. Deebo Samuel gets hurt. All of a sudden, that kind of changes their narrative a little bit. They start to lose some games, but now they're healthy. Now they're all back. So you're going to get the 49ers' best punch on Sunday. The flip side of that with the Eagles has been, while it's felt inconsistent at times, you look at the second half last week and what they are capable of, and to your point, putting those 4 quarters together. But the part that's kind of stuck with me all season long is that every guy's kind of had their moments. You look at the Bradbury interception, changed the game.
Sure did.
Last week. Jordan Davis with that play on Josh Allen in overtime.
Sideline play,
just an absolute hustle play to catch Josh Allen. Who knows what happens if he just takes his foot off the gas a little bit in that effort there. Olamide Zaccheaus, who earlier in the season when you and I talked and Quez went out, and I love that they're giving Quez all these opportunities, and you see the speed, you see the breakaway. But I said to you, I would be perfectly fine if Olamide Zaccheaus stayed in that number 3 spot because he can just do a little bit of everything. Oh, by the way, Jalen Hurts going out of the pocket to his left, not to the side he rolls and wants to throw to.
Right.
His opposite across his body throw to Olamide Zaccheaus, who goes up and makes a play in the back of the end zone. That's where, to me, and that's just one game. We've just described one game, and while it hasn't all been complete on all three facets, there have been players that have showed up at times to make a play when they need it, and that, to me, is encouraging, because if they have that happening, ultimately you hope that the goal is they put it all together. And once they do, man, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Well, and you said with Hurts rolling to his left, I mean, that's not the comfortable side. That's not the most accurate side. And I don't know what you were saying during that play, but I think I yelled it out loud. What are you doing? Why are you throwing from that side? Just throw the ball away or try to get a yard or live to see another down. Oh, great play. Good call. It's one of those things where it's like, but I agree with, now Quez was given that 21-day opportunity, a window.
His window's open.
His window's open now, but I would stick with they got him from Atlanta, I think, right?
Yeah.
I would stick with him as well. I don't know. What do you do with Quez Watkins in this situation? AJ Brown, I heard he went off the field off the practice field a little bit limping yesterday. Don't know how serious it was. He is on the Eagles injury report as we speak. You have to keep him around. I don't think they're going to do any kind of cut or anything like that, but it's something you worry about. And and moving right into AJ Brown now in that situation, you hope everything is okay with him. He will be needed. And I saw the San Francisco 49ers report too. It's like nobody's on there.
Well, you've got 10 days off. You've got 10 days off and
a
pretty easy game on Thanksgiving night. I shouldn't say easy game, but they ran away from Seattle there in that second half.
They did.
And they are going to be here ready to play.
Yep.
There's some fascinating statistics out there about, you could say what you want about Brock Purdy, say what you want about the NFC Championship game last year. I think for Eagles fans, you just got your doors blown off. Like, it happened. You didn't put your quarterback in a conducive situation. He gets knocked out.
Right.
Your backup quarterback comes in. He gets knocked out. Like the narrative all off season of the 49ers being like, oh, just wait. You guys got luck. Basically saying you got lucky was a terrible assessment on my part. Of course, that's easy to say for Eagles fans, but we're going to get to see a lot of what this team is all about on Sunday, because I think the key to the game for me is you're in Philadelphia. You typically, Nick Sirianni likes to defer till the second half.
He does. Mm-hmm.
If you can get them on the field, that offense on that opening drive, rattle them a little bit, whether it's a 3-and-out, whether it's a sack, whether it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then can also come back down the end of the field and score points. I can't think of a more hellish environment to play in than Lincoln Financial Field under those. It's already going to be rough on Sunday, but if they can totally flip the script and make it their game to lose right off the bat, man, I think that's the worst kind of environment the 49ers want to be in.
And think about this, speaking of environment, think about in particular, a couple of 49ers that were complaining about it during the offseason. Let's say Deebo Samuel drops a ball. Or, imagine that environment then if something like that happens. Or one of the guys on defense that was crying about the game last year misses a tackle or overrun, something like this.
Sure.
That place will be going absolutely insane. Or wait for the first sack on Brock Purdy.
And
that's going to be.
That, to me, could set the whole tone for the game, because Brock Purdy, I'm going to give him his credit, looks like a poised kid. He's on a really good team with really good players and a really good system, and it's a credit to him, no doubt. The big thing that you haven't seen a whole lot from him is playing from behind. Can he bring a team back? And I think in this environment, under those circumstances, I'll take that bet. If you tell me sack on the first drive, Eagles go down and score 7-0 Eagles. Now let's play the game. I feel really good about the Eagles' chances from that point on.
Yeah.
And you don't know. Listen, we have arguably, you could argue, the most poised quarterback I've ever seen on our roster, and Jalen Hurts. So,
absolutely.
You flip that script on the other side. Can Brock Purdy kind of handle that? That's the one thing that holds me back from, as you're talking about, and we hear it all the time, those top 10 quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks, who's top 5 and all. The only thing that's holding me back from Brock Purdy, putting him on that list, is seeing him do that, bring that team back. They've just been so good at getting ahead
that he hasn't.
That's not something he really has had on his resume too much so far.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Jalen Hurts for a second. We're going to play a game one day. It's a really cool game that I heard about. You take a picture of Jalen Hurts, but you have to figure out what actually happened. And you tell me, did he just throw a touchdown pass or did he just throw an interception?
Right.
You can't tell
No.
what the guy's thinking, what he's doing, what just happened on the field.
Yeah.
He has that same calm, cool, collected approach, and I love that about Jalen Hurts. And I believe he's going to have to keep this, and that's who he is. He's obviously going to keep this for Sunday. That's who the guy is. But going back to Brock Purdy, get a lead on the guy. See what we can do. As they say on defense, put your ears back and do what you got to do and get your 11th win of the season. Let's keep this thing going. And this was it still is the tough stretch of the Eagles season.
Yeah,
it started with Dallas, right? Dallas.
City, well, I mean, you could even throw that Miami game.
The Miami game.
They were both 6-1 or 5-1 going into that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a fascinating game to watch on Sunday. And I think the one thing that both of these teams could be their struggle down the stretch is when you have to make them one-dimensional.
Right.
The Eagles have shown Jalen Hurts in his second halves has been amazing. But we still haven't seen that complete game. And I think that's the big thing maybe Eagles fans are concerned about. What happens when that isn't the case? What happens when you're not playing that way? What happens when you're not able to recover? Yeah. What happens when you do get out to that slow start and somebody maybe puts up 21 instead of it being 10-3 or 17-7 at halftime? That's really it's a great point. The really big thing. Christy checks in and says, what's your opinion on the Niners giving 2.5 points to the Eagles at the link? I think part of that has to do with a lot of the injuries. So Lane Johnson, you mentioned the injury report. The Eagles have a laundry list. I think you add it all up. You go Monday night in Arrowhead, you play a tough game, you get a win. You go out, you play an overtime game against the Bills.
Yep.
Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, Dallas Goedert, Zach Cunningham is a huge injury there.
That's our linebacker. We're really, really thin at linebacker.
I think you look at all of those things and take them into account. Now, most of those guys may play. But I think as that opening line came out, maybe that was everybody saying, like, you're missing a good chunk of your players. You're playing a team that's going to come off of 10 days rest. They've had plenty of time to prepare, plenty of time to recover. Now they're going to come to the East Coast. And look, again, alluding to that first drive, I thought give Jack Driscoll a chance to just get some bumps in there, run the ball a little bit, but he got off to a not great start. He ultimately rounded it out, and that's a credit to him. But, if you're missing Dallas Goedert again, and this is a whole different animal on that San Francisco defensive line, I think that might be what goes into the line in this game a little bit.
So the Eagles not only have, a fresh San Francisco team this week, but the same thing will happen against Dallas next week. The only difference of Eagles will be traveling to Dallas next week, and Dallas has the 10 days off. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Dallas has 10 days off again. So, this tough stretch does continue. And, you got to get these guys healthy. That's what it is. Do you think they approach first of all, do you think they approach getting Zach Ertz back, number one, to back up Goddard? And then do you think they get the linebacker that's between Dallas and Philadelphia? I mean, look, the Zach Ertz thing could be a big move in a way where, Goddard is the starting tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles. I get that, but he'd be a pretty darn good backup at this point in his career.
Does he want to be a backup at this point in his career? I mean,
I think he wants another ring.
I think that's kind of his, maybe part of the now Arizona. Yes, of course, isn't. Thank you, Christy and Jim, for checking in.
Hi, Christy and Jim.
I don't know what the circumstances were in Arizona there. I think he thought, okay, it's a bad team, and maybe he is just going after a ring. But if I'm Zach Ertz and I do want to play, look right down 95. Baltimore is sitting in the top spot in the AFC.
And they lost
their tight end got injured. Probably out for the rest of the season.
Good point.
That's a spot where he can step in. Some familiarity, I'm sure, with a lot of the staff there in Baltimore. So some of those things that he might be looking for might be there.
Makes sense.
On the flip side of it, man, what better situation to come into than a place you called home for so long? Again, you mentioned familiarity. Graham, Kelsey, Cox, all those guys that have been there. It would be great to see under what circumstances. I mean, think about it. If he does come back, and Dallas Goedert does come back, I don't want to take Dallas Goedert off of the field.
Not at all. I know
You still have A.J. Brown.
Right.
You still have Smitty. You still have Julio Jones. You still have Olamide Zaccheaus. You still have DeAndre. So you've got a lot of talent on that offense. Yeah. If what he's looking for is a role on a team that's going after a ring,
then
I can't think of a better spot to come than here. If what he's looking for is being a major contributing factor on a team that's going after a ring, Again, I think Baltimore just makes a ton of sense for him.
It does. And if he's okay, just imagine this: if he's okay with his role, if he were to sign in Philadelphia, which would be awesome, is he better than what you have now as your backup tight end? And again, it's all about whether or not he wants to do it. No offense to Jack Stoll, but he's not a running pass route tight end. That's not who he is.
Yeah.
And I get that. He's more of a blocking back. That's fine. I get it. But, if you say, oh, man, Goddard's arm really isn't ready, we're going to sit him for two more weeks, Zach Ertz is going to be starting. I think we'd be pretty cool with that,
Well, yes, I think but that's the thing. It would be very difficult for him to come in and go
2 weeks.
Like, there's not.
I see your point.
There's,
Yep.
I'd have to sit here and think about, you're talking about maybe Frank Reich being there with him when Frank was in Philadelphia,
right?
To Nick Sirianni, the connections that are there in the offense. Is the language the same? Is the verbiage the same where he could come in and just jump right in?
No, and that's a really good point. Yeah.
Zach was, again, and Zach was traded. That was Doug's last season. So he's got some experience with Jalen Hurts, some familiarity there. So yeah, it would, to me, it makes a ton of sense, I think, to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's up to Zach, if he's going in and filling in for Mark Andrews and he is the number one tight end,
you can't blame him
in Baltimore.
No, you can't blame
that
him
makes a ton of sense.
Yep, you can't blame him.
But we'll have to wait and see. It's Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage Company, our friends over there at Banko. What up, Tony? Our friends at Banko Beverage Company. So, okay. So, what do you see? What is your prediction? I think I know what your prediction is.
do you think you know what the score is that I'm predicting?
No, I have no idea what your score is, but I think I know which team you like.
Well, let me think this long on our thought. Eagles could get their 11th win and will get their 11th win on Sunday. It's going to be a tough game. Obviously, the Niners are a darn good team, but I don't think this is going to be as close as we all think. Now, I'm not saying 35-3 Eagles. I have the feeling we're going to put up some points. It's going to be like a 28-17-ish style game with the Eagles in control for the most part of the game.
You and I really aren't too far off in that assessment, because I think they have a really good front seven in San Francisco, and I think they're a little susceptible on the back end. And I think the Eagles have done a very nice job on defense of when they've needed to hunker down, playing a bend but don't break style.
Yes,
Can they generate those turnovers? Can they get out to that start that I think we both are waiting for them to put the foot on the gas out of the door? I think if there's a game to do it, it is this one. Yeah. I think San Francisco is going to be able to move the ball. If at some point you can find yourself up double digits and make them one-dimensional, even with all the talent that they have, if you make them one-dimensional, that's such a key part in this game, because I love Christian Ellis. I thought he was a great like training camp guy. You heard his name coming up a bunch. Spotlight's going to be on him. They're going to go after him in this game. Can you make them one-dimensional? Can you narrow things down a little bit to ease the game for him, for Nicholas Morrow, for Ben Van Sumeren, whoever's going to be playing a linebacker? Yeah. That's the key in this game to me. I think the Eagles are able to do it. I've got a similar score. I've got Eagles 27-19, because I think San Francisco is going to move the ball. I think they're going to be able to get threes where they're settling for threes. The Eagles a couple of times are going to be. Eagles red zone offense has been on fire the last month or so.
It has.
So I think the Eagles are able to maybe, where San Francisco settle in for three, the Eagles a couple times are able to get themselves 7, and that's where the distance starts to come in a little bit.
Can we just throw away one play of the playbook forever and ever and never go to it again?
Don't say the bubble screen, because we can have a whole other podcast about it. Is that what you're going to say? The bubble screen?
Exactly what I was going to say.
Spread teams
out.
Why is it not?
But it's not working. It's not working here. That's the problem.
But it's the same as any. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Think of how many times A.J. Brown has run that little 5-yard in route, 5-yard in, whether you want to slant, an actual in, whatever it is. He could run that 10 times. Teams could be all over it. He could run it 10 times, pick up 30 yards. That 11th time,
he can break free.
So I want you to think back to the Washington game in Philadelphia, if I remember correctly. They're bubble screening. They're bubble screening with Dallas Goedert a little bit.
Yeah.
There's one where A.J. Brown goes up, acts like he's going to block, gets free, and that's the one where he kind of zoomed through the defense and scored the touchdown.
Exactly what you mean.
That's the reason you do it.
Okay.
You make players' eyes go sideline to sideline. That play is not meant. That's why they always say it's an extension of the run game. That game is That play is not, if you get one that breaks, great. That play is meant to be a 5-6 yard play, maybe get a guy in a little bit of a rhythm. That play is not designed necessarily to be a pop. What that play is designed for is to make you work sideline to sideline, because I'll throw it 3 times. And if I notice that this safety is coming down really hard every time because he sees that bubble, that 4th time is when I say, okay, AJ, now's your time to fake and go.
All right.
And that's where you make the play.
All right. I get you lunch if we do really well with it this week.
I'll tell you what, if that play happens, I'm going to send you a text message and let you know, buddy.
No problem.
It is the Cat Country 96 Birds Recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage Company. For Sam Malone, happy December to you, buddy.
Happy December,
Let's go Birds.
Go
Hopefully
Birds.
A win against San Francisco on Sunday. And then, of course, those pesky Dallas Cowboys just around the corner as well. But one game at a time.
Could have lost last night. And Seattle played a heck of a game.
And I think maybe set a little template out there for teams on what you should do to try to beat those Cowboys.
Got that right.
So we'll talk about all that next week. It is the Cat Country 96 Birds Recap.